Unreal Engine 5 is officially here and it's pretty fantastic. With incredible power, a bevy of features, and the intuitive controls you've come to expect, this free 3D tool is the killer app you need to see to believe. What up, Winbush here, and today I'm excited to bring you guys Unreal Engine 5. Now I've been using the early access for a little bit now, so I reached out to my friends at School of Motion so I could give you guys a guided tour to get you guys started. Now this isn't going to be everything that you could do, but it's going to give you a solid foundation on where you can get started and let your imagination run wild. In this video, I'll show you how to download Unreal Engine 5, how to navigate the menu to open a new project, how to quickly create using MegaScans, Lumen, and other assets, and how to build and light your scene using a new interface. Before we begin, make sure to download the project files in the link below so that you can follow along. Okay, to get started, first you want to go to unrealengine.com. You can see we have a brand new loading page here showing one of the demos from the UE5 demo that they revealed a couple of days ago. And to get started, in the upper right hand corner, we want to click on this download button here. So I'm going to click on this. And that's going to bring us to the licensing page. And now since we're creators, we're able to use Unreal Engine 100% free. The only time you have to pay for it is if you make an interactive experience like a video game, in which if you have $1 million worth of revenue, then you have to pay them their 5%, as you can see there in the royalties. But since we're going to be using it for motion graphics and broadcast and whatever else we want to use it for, like daily renders or something of that nature, we're going to be free to use Unreal Engine for free. So if you scroll down here to the bottom, I'm just going to click on download right here, and that's going to bring us to this screen here. And so if you don't have an Epic Game account already, you want to make sure you sign up for one. But if you do have one, you're just going to hit login now. And then from here, it gives you a whole plethora of ways to sign into Epic Games. Like I just made a separate Epic Games account. It just keeps it clean. But if you want, you can sign in with Facebook, Google, even some of your gaming consoles, and even with Apple. And so I would suggest just, making a brand new account with the Epic Games right here. And then once you do, it's going to download the exe file, in which it's going to install the Epic Games launcher. So once you have everything up and running and installed, this is the Epic Games launcher, and this is what you're going to see. Now, if you're already experienced with Unreal Engine, you'll notice we have a brand new tab up here that says UE5, and that's exactly what we want to go to get Unreal Engine 5. So I'm going to click on this, and that brings us to the Unreal Engine 5 page, in which it gives you download the early access, in which I want to reiterate, this is a beta. And so some of the functionality might be a little bit weird and might be a little bit slower than what you're used to, but it is in beta and it's going to be worked over for the next couple of months. So take that with a grain of salt. Now, if you want to check some of the stuff out that came with Unreal Engine 5, they have the sample project down here, which showcases all the new features like Nanite and Lumen, which is really cool. Make sure you set some time aside. It is 100 gig download, but if you watch the YouTube trailer that they revealed, it's exactly that demo, but you can play it and you can explore around in the world and you can kind of just dissect it and see exactly how they built it out. Once you have the early access installed, you should have a tab up here in the upper right hand corner. If I click on this down arrow, this actually shows me all the different versions of Unreal Engine that I have installed. You can have multiple versions installed, which is really cool. So if you started on a project saying like 4.25 and 4.26 came out, but you didn't want to upgrade because it might mess up your project, you can totally keep that version in there. And so you want to go to the one that says UE5 Early Access, and you want to click on this, and there we go. It's loading up Unreal Engine. It has this pretty cool splash screen here. And once it's done loading, we have the Unreal Engine project browser here, which is completely revamped with the UI and everything. It looks really clean here. On the left-hand side, we have our recent projects. And if you're familiar with Unreal Engine 4, this should all look familiar to you. It's just reskinned. And so we have games here. We have film, video, and live production, this is what we're going to be using. We have ArchViz, engineering, and construction. And then we have automotive and product design. And so if you notice, as I click on these have a whole bunch of different templates that will get you started. So say that you wanted to make like a first person game, you click on this and it automatically gives you everything you need to get started with a first person shooter there. If you want to do like a top down experience, something like Diablo, you have that option. But I like to go to the film, video, and live events. And I like starting with a blank slate. So I'm going to click on blank here. And then down here under project location, make sure you save it to where you want your Unreal Engine project to save to. And then over here on the right hand side under project name, I'm just going to name this School of Motion underscore UE5. And then I'm going to click on create. And here we are. This is what you guys have been waiting for. This is the brand new Unreal Engine 5. As you can see, the interface is completely redone. It should look familiar if you've been using Unreal Engine 4, but the interface is a lot cleaner. It's a lot sleeker. Like if you were working at Unreal Engine 4, this should look really familiar to you. On the right-hand side, we have the world outliner still. We have the details panel still. But if you notice on the left-hand side, we don't have the actors panel. And so for those that aren't familiar with Unreal Engine 4, let me show you exactly what the old interface looked like, which is really cool because we could kind of go back and forth between the two. So if I come up to Window and I come down here to load layout, it actually gives us the option to bring up the old Unreal Engine 4 classic layout, in which if I click here, this is exactly what Unreal Engine 4 looked like, but it still has the nice interface here. And so this is what I was alluding to before. We had this panel called the place actors, which kind of gives us an easy access point to all the different things that we need here. So if we wanted to add stuff like player start, or if you wanted to come over to lights, it has all of your lights sitting here. If you wanted to come over to virtual production cameras, it was all easy to access here. Having the place actors here on the left-hand side just gave you easy access to all these different things that I use a lot. But as you can see, it does take up a lot of real estate here on the left-hand side. And so for me, I like this old interface, but a lot of people do like the sleekness and having a bigger viewport here. So I'm going to go to Window, come back down to Load Layout, and I'm going to come down to Default Editor Layout. And that's going to bring us back to how they want us to really interact with Unreal Engine 5. And if you need to add anything to your scene, it's right over here under Main, under Create. And this is where all that place actor stuff is. And so it kind of just gives you a pull down window instead of having it inside of a panel there. So, you know, whatever you're more comfortable with, feel free to use it. So the main thing in this demonstration that I want to show you is how we could quickly create with MegaScans using Unreal Engine 5 with Nanite and Lumen technology. And if you're not familiar with what Nanite is, basically, if we have a high polygon object, we don't have to use any normal maps or any displacement maps. We could take like a really high polygon object straight from ZBrush or MegaScans with even like 1,000,000 polygons on it, bring it directly into Unreal Engine. And with their new technology, that thing just runs like a breeze. We don't have any type of delays. We don't have to decimate our models or anything. And what Lumen is basically, from my understanding, it's going to be a replacement for ray tracing. So Lumen is going to be affecting your lights, your shadows, your reflections, everything that we were kind of amped to inside of Unreal Engine 4 with ray tracing. We're going to get faster results with Lumen technology in Unreal Engine 5. And if you guys would like to take a deeper dive into it, I'm actually going to leave this link for you guys so you can see the official documentation for Unreal Engine 5, the early access. I would suggest that everybody go through it if they really want to understand how the Nanite and Lumen technologies work. If I just scroll down through this screen here, you can see that it gives a pretty good explainer about everything that's going to be inside of Unreal Engine 5. You know, the interface changes and all the things that work and don't work as of right now. Because remember, this is a beta. And so certain things aren't going to work. Like I know offhand, the foliage tool is kind of iffy right now inside of Unreal Engine 5. And so I'm not going to display that, but I am going to display the stuff that works. Okay, so getting back into Unreal Engine 5, I'm going to come over to Content. And then I'm going to come down here to where it says Get Content, and I'm going to click on Quixel Bridge. So basically what Quixel Bridge is giving you all the assets that we have for free through MegaScans. And so what these are is, you know, it's a whole bunch of different items. We have a whole bunch of different landscapes. We have, you know, all types of materials. It's a really cool library. It has thousands of items. We have some foliage in here. So if you're not familiar with Quixel Bridge, it's completely free with your Epic Games account. And the reason that we were able to access it inside of Unreal Engine is because it's all integrated now. So in the past, it was two completely different platforms. You had to download Quixel Bridge separately from Unreal Engine, but now it's all built right in, which is really cool because the version that's built in actually has all the models with Nanite technology already built into it. So let's go over here. I'm going to come over to Home, and then I'm going to come over here to Collections, in which if you're brand new to Quixel and Unreal Engine, I would suggest everybody come to Collections because this is kind of like a curated gallery and where they put all the different things. Like for this example, I'm going to use this Arctic Ice's snowpack here, which is really cool. But if you scroll down, you can see that we have some like Renaissance type buildings. We have some Nordic coastal cliffs. We have sand dunes. And so let me click on something here. Let's say like dystopian slums. And so it's going to show you the renders that they created internally using the different assets. And if I click on assets, these are all the assets that they use to make those renders, which is really cool. So it's showing you exactly what they did to make that scene there that you see here under renders. And if I come back over to collections, I'm going to go to the Arctic ice and snow. There's some cool renders that we can make in there as well. And if I click on asset, this is better because it's actually showing us some of the 3D models that they used here as well. So before we can start downloading everything here, you want to make sure that you're signed in. So up here in the upper right hand corner, you're going to click on the head there and it's going to say to sign in. So I'm going to click on this and then I'm just going to sign in with my Epic Games account. And once we're signed in, we should be good to go. So I'm going to click up here again and then I'm going to come down to preference. And under preference, this is going to allow us to put a library path where we want to have all of our stuff saved. And so with nanite technology, a lot of these models can get quite large, like even up to 500 megabytes. And so you're going to want to make sure that you pick somewhere that has a lot of space, and then you're just going to click save. And then if I scroll down here, you can see that I have some of this stuff downloaded already. And then the ones that have the green arrow, that means that we can actually download these. And so caveat, if you're going to be using the nanite type models, it might take a little while to download. So make sure you have enough time to download those. So if I do click on like the snow hill here, if I come over here to my right hand side, right here under medium quality and click on this, you can see that we have a selection for nanite, in which this is what we want to use. This is what we all have been waiting for. So I'm going to click on nanite and then we can actually just download it, in which I already have some stuff already downloaded with the nanite technology. Like if I click on this one here for the snow embankment, I already have it downloaded. And so it's as easy as just clicking add. And you can see right here in the lower left-hand corner, it says successfully exported. So I'm going to come back to Unreal Engine. And then I'm going to come down here to my lower left-hand corner where it says content drawer and click on that. And that's actually going to bring up our content browser. And under MegaScans, 3D assets, you can see that we have our snow embankment here. And so from here, it's as easy as basically just clicking and dragging it into our scene here, which is really cool. So if I scroll on my wheel, it's just going to push inward like so. And then if I want to turn, I'm going to hold down the right click on the mouse. That's going to turn my camera head. And then from here, it's kind of like moving in a first person video game. So if I hold down the W, that's going to move forward. If I hold down the S, that moves backwards. The A on my keyboard moves left and the D moves right. Then if I hit the E, that goes up, and the Q, it goes down. So if you play any type of computer games like Call of Duty or Doom, it moves exactly how you would inside of a video game, but make sure you're holding down the right click on your mouse button to navigate. So we have a snow embankment here, but we have this platform here and it doesn't have any type of materials. So I could just actually add like a snow material here. So I'm going to come back to content, come down to Quixel Bridge, and let me scroll down here. I think I have some snow already downloaded. There we go. I have the fresh windswept snow here already downloaded, and it's at the highest quality that we could pick. So I'm going to click on add, and it's successfully exported. So I'm going to minimize this again. Then I'm going to come down here to the content drawer. And this time over here under my MegaScans, we have a new folder for surfaces, in which is already selected. So I'm just going to click this snow, drag it into my scene here. And you can see that the shaders are compiling. It should work pretty fast, but now we have some snow in here, which is really cool. So if I click on my snow embankment, I can actually move this up a little bit, in which we're getting some snapping. And I don't want that. I want to freely be able to move this. So if I come over here into my top panel over here on the right, we should see some stuff highlighted in blue. So if I click on this one here, that would disable the snapping. And now I can freely move this around. But let me click on my rotate tool here. So I'm going to click on this right here. This is rotate. You can see that it's still snapping when it rotates. And that's controlled by this one right here. So if I turn this off, it's no longer rotating in increments. And that's what these numbers are right here. So if I turn this back on, and then I click on this 10, this allows us to move it in increments. And so right now, default, it's at 10. So say that I wanted to snap in like 45-degree increments. And if I click on here and move it over, now you can see each time it's snapping in a 45-degree angle. And same thing right here for the movement. If I click on this for the snap sizes, let's say if I do it to 1, turn this back on, click on my selection tool, and it's snapping, but I have it in increments of 1. So it's snapping not as much as it was before when it was on 10. So let me move this down a tad bit, somewhere around there. And then this is scaling snapping right here, this arrow that's kind of pointing up to the right hand side, but I'm just going to leave that on. I don't really want to mess with that. And just for fun right here, this is the camera speed. So right now by default, it's on 4. So let me turn this all the way up to 8. And this is going to move our camera really fast whenever we use the WASD. So if I right click on my mouse, hit the S button, you can see that it's going super fast when we're navigating around the scene. So I'm going to come back over here and click on 4. And let's say I'm going to hold S. I'm just going to go somewhere distant into my scene. And let's say that we get lost, like we can't find where we're at. We're working in a really large scene. It's quick and easy to get back to where we need to be. If I come over here to my world outliner and I'm on this snow embankment right here, I'm just going to select this and double click, and it snaps us right back into where we need to be. So if you ever get lost, all you have to do is find your item inside the world outliner, double click, and it's going to take you right back to where you were before. So I'm going to move this down a little bit. This is looking pretty cool, but let's add some other stuff in here as well. So I'm going to go back to Quixel Bridge. Let's look for some more stuff that I have downloaded. I have this snow embankment here as well. I'm going to click on add. All right, and we should have it added to the scene. I'm going to minimize it, come back down to my content drawer. And here we go. We have this snow embankment. It's just as easy as clicking and dragging into my scene. And there we go. So you can just start placing it quick and easy, just like that. And so at this point, I always say it's kind of like messing around with Legos. You know, you just have your scene here. You're just clicking and dragging everything into your scene. So I don't want to bore you guys building out an entire scene in Unreal Engine. You know, this could take hours or minutes, depending on how much detail you want to put in here. But let me take you to a scene that I already have built so that I can show you some of the difference between lumen and ray tracing inside of a scene. So this is the scene that I built inside of Unreal Engine 5. I did it completely the same way that I just showed you guys using the MegaScans assets. Nothing too crazy. All I did was click and drag a bunch of assets that I liked inside the library, bring it into Unreal, and just kind of place them exactly where I wanted. This right here is just a cube with some type of metal material on there that I also got from the MegaScans library. I just wanted to show some cool reflections happening on inside the scene here. We have our sun in the distance there. We have some volumetric clouds all running in real time. And so for this demonstration here, I want to show you guys how we can actually build out this completely real-time atmosphere and lighting. So I'm going to come over here to my details panel, and I'm going to strip out all the lights, and then I'm going to show you guys how to build this from scratch. All right, so it looks like we have a blank slate here, but we actually don't. Like if I click on my landscape, you can see that I have some geometry in here, but we have absolutely no lights. So to get started, I'm actually going to come up here under main where it says create. I'm going to come down here to lights, click on directional light. If I look over here in my world outliner, it adds a directional light. And so I kind of want to maybe organize this a little bit better. And there you go. You can see our lights slowly starting to come in. It doesn't look any good yet. That's because we have to, dial in some of the attributes here, which I'll show you here in a moment. But first, I'm going to click on main. I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a folder. And I'm going to name this one MegaScans. I'm just going to drop all my MegaScans assets and everything into that folder. I just like to do this to kind of organize everything. Actually, I could drop my cube in here as well and the landscape. And that way it should keep it clean so you guys can see what I'm bringing into the world outliner. And so I'm going to get started with this directional light. I'm going to select this, and then down here under the details panel, I'm going to move this up, and under location, under transforms, you can see on the right hand side, we have this arrow that kind of looks like it's making a U-turn. Now this is going to actually reset our property values here. So what I like to do, especially for a directional light, is start at absolute 0. So I'm going to click this, and you can see that our X, Y, and Z is all zeroed out. Our rotation is already zeroed out as well. But if I click on this reset value here, you can see that it actually put our Y at a -45 degree angle, which brings some light into our scene. And it put our sun at a 45-degree angle here, and which is why it looks really blown out and we're getting these hard lights, in which we could dial all these attributes. And if I come down here under intensity where it says lux, I'm actually going to do 3.16. And just by default, Unreal usually says that 3.16 gives you kind of like a more natural sunlight vibe to your scene there. And our scene isn't really looking that great still. So I'm going to come up here to my left-hand side where it says create. I'm going to come down to visual effects and I'm going to add a post-process volume. And what this is going to allow us to do is kind of dial in some of our lighting settings here. So if I bring up my details panel here again, if I come down here under bloom, I'm going to turn on my method here in intensity, in which I'll show you some examples here later once we have everything dialed in. But I'm going to scroll this up, come down to exposure, and I want to come down here to where it says metering mode. I'm going to click this on. Come over auto expose basic, and then under exposure compensation, hit 0. And this should give us more accurate lighting whenever we're dialing our lightings in. And there's one more setting that we want to have here. So under min EV and max EV, I'm going to turn both of these on and put them both around 1. And so now whenever we're dialing in our lighting, we're not going to get any type of overexposure or any kind of funkiness. We should be able to just dial everything in. And I think that's going to be it for right now. So let's start adding some more stuff to our sky and our clouds and our atmosphere here. So I'm going to come back over to create, and under visual effects, I'm going to add a sky atmosphere. And then under directional light, I need to click on one more setting. So I make sure I have directional light selected. I'm going to scroll down here, just keep scrolling. It's closer to the bottom, the setting that we need. But right here where it says atmosphere sunlight, I'm going to turn that on. And there we go. So once you have your directional light and your sky atmosphere in there, you want to come down here to where it says atmosphere and cloud, turn on atmosphere, sunlight, and then that gives us our environment there, but we still don't have any clouds. So I'm going to come over here to create again, come down here to visual effects, and let's add some volumetric clouds, in which boom, now we have our clouds here and everything. And what's cool is if I come over to my directional light and we scroll back up to my rotation here, if I start rotating this, you can see that it's actually affecting our environment here. So let's say we want to have it there. That looks cool. That looks like kind of like a sunrise over there. And if I scroll this over to where we can start seeing our sun a little bit, somewhere around there. And actually, I don't want it to be totally dark. And this is where, this is where your art direction comes in. There we go. We can see the sun poking in right there, which I think looks kind of cool. Yeah, somewhere, let's say somewhere around there. And before I start really dialing all this in, let me add some atmospheric fog in here. So I'm going to come back up to create visual effects, and I want to add some exponential height fog. And you can see that it really fogged it out. And so if I come here under my details panel where it says fog density, actually before I do that, I want to scroll down here to volumetric fog, select this. Then I'm going to come up to my fog density, scroll it down a little bit. There you go. So you can see how it's really affecting our atmosphere here. Somewhere around there could be cool. So we just want like a little bit of atmospheric haze in here. So as I'm playing around with my lighting, I'm noticing that my post-process volume isn't doing anything. So if I click on my post-process volume here, then I actually select it in my scene. If I click on the G key here, that's going to bring up this box. And so if I click the G key on my keyboard, that kind of, makes everything disappear in the scene just to make it cleaner. But if I click it again, then we can kind of see all the items that we need. And so this is why I missed it, because I didn't realize that it's only affecting everything that's in this box here. And so in order to have our post-process volume affect everything in the scene, I need to make sure I have it selected in my world outliner. And then down here under search, I'm going to type in UNB, and that's going to give us a shortcut to this right here, where it says unbound infinite extent. So if I click on this, and there you go, you saw our scene flash, and that means that everything that we did inside the post-process volume is now happening throughout our entire scene. So I'm going to click on the X here. Then let me go back to my directional sunlight. I'm going to put it back into the position that I had it before. And there we go. So now we have the lens flare that I wasn't getting before. And that's because now we're being affected by our post-process volume. So I'm going to come back down here to post-process volume. I'm going to come down here under bloom. And you can see if I turn it up, it's actually going to turn up the intensity of my lens flare there, which could look cool, you know, depending on what you're going for artistically. And if I scroll down here a little bit as well, it should give us some lens flares. There we go, right here. And you can actually turn up more of the intensity there if you want. Turn it down. I'm gonna hit Control Z. We can actually control the bokeh size here. And this is all work in real time in your camera, which is really cool. You could change the threshold if you want, which I think I'm just gonna leave that at default. And then you can add a bokeh shape if you want. If you have some type of grayscale image there or black and white, you could change the shape in there. And I think maybe for this example, something, I don't want to go too crazy. So maybe bring our bokeh size up to that. Maybe our intensity down to like 0.1. So we're just getting like a little halo effect in there. And I think that's going to be it for the lighting. So let me see if I could get some better reflections in here. If I come over to create and then come down to visual effects, we can add a sphere reflection capture or a box. I usually just go with the box here. And so that's going to bring it to the middle of our scene. And I'm just going to drag it until we get somewhere around here. And then if I scroll up in my details panel, make sure I have that selected. I'm going to come down to scale. And I'm just going to make this like 5,000 so that it really engulfs my scene here. Then if I come over here, actually, if you look right here, it says reflection captures need to be rebuilt. And so what that's going to do is basically just give us some better reflections in our vicinity here. So if I come over to build reflection captures, this should only take a moment. So we have a better reflections in there, but still a little bit hard to see because we only have one lighting source right now. We have our sun that's off in the distance. It actually just got covered by the clouds, which is kind of cool to see. You can see that the clouds are moving in real time on our sky here. There you go. You can see the sun starting to poke through the clouds again. So that's really cool, you know, how that stuff is interacting with each other. But let me add a couple of lights here in the scene. Like I want to have this obelisk kind of be maybe our focal point that we kind of look towards. And so I'm going to come over here to create, come down here to lights, come down here to point lights. And I'm just going to navigate this around my scene, somewhere around here, like so. And then I'm going to come over here to movable in my details panel. And then for my intensity, maybe bring it down to 2. Click on light color here. Let's maybe add, actually I could do a color picker. So somewhere around there could be cool. Actually make it a little bit brighter. So I just like having a little bit of like a blue hue in there, somewhere like that. And don't be afraid to put like a bunch of lights in your scene, depending on what you're going for. So if I hold down the Alt key on my keyboard, left click, and just once it turns yellow, if I just left click and drag, that makes a duplicate in our scene. So I could really just start going around my scene and kind of putting more lights in here as I see fit. And this is basically how I did it for the other scene there as well. So you can really just go into town, just kind of dialing in all your attributes. So you could really spend a lot of time just even dialing in just the lighting in your scene to how you see fit. So from here, this is basically how I lit my scene and everything. It's not exact because I don't have the exact attributes there, but let me pull up my previous scene and I can show you guys the difference between lumen and ray tracing. So here I am back in my original scene. I'm actually just going to click on my scene here, click on something in here and click G just to clean it out a little bit. And so I want to really look at my cube here because I have some nice reflections on here and everything. And if I come over to, let's say my post-process volume right here, and I'm going to look at my details panel. So I'm actually going to just scroll it up so we can really see everything down here. If I keep scrolling down to where we have global illumination, now right here under method, I already have it selected on and it's selected under lumen. Now, if I select this, it gives us a couple of more options. So we can actually have no global illumination. We can have a screen space and we can have ray tracing. So let me show you the difference between the different versions here. So if I click on ray tracing, This is what the scene looked like with ray tracing. This is pretty much what we got with Unreal Engine 4. You know, you have to switch up your lighting a little bit to make it look better. This doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look as good as Lumen. So let's see what screen space looks like. So you saw a little bit of difference, especially there in like the shadows. So let me go back to ray tracing. You want to really focus in on this area here. There you go. So it gives us a little bit of unrealistic shadows in there. And if I click on none, this is what it looks like. But see what happens when I click on Lumen. It looks like a completely different scene. Like Lumen really makes this shine. It makes the highlights, it makes the shadows, everything look that much more realistic. And it gives us a cool effect. So same thing with reflections here. I have Lumen selected. So let me click on ray tracing. You can really see in the cube there, like we do get some nice reflections in here and everything. It's better than the screen space, which this is what screen space would have gave us. So you can see where ray tracing was a big update that we were used to in the last version. But once we click on Lumen, it's night and day. Like it looks really phenomenal there. And that's basically the difference between ray tracing and Lumen. And the cool thing with Lumen, it actually works with not only NVIDIA, but AMD cards as well. So you have to look at the specs and see exactly what they recommend that you have for your system. But with ray tracing, that only worked with NVIDIA cards, but with this new Lumen technology, if you have an AMD machine, you should be able to take advantage of it as well, which is really great for everybody out there. We can all take advantage of this really cool technology. So this is basically the demo that I want to show you guys getting set into Unreal Engine 5. Hopefully this gave you a good starting point to really go in there, explore. As I was saying before, a lot of this stuff is in beta, and so take that with a grain of salt. It might work a little bit differently how it worked in Unreal 4. You'll find some stuff doesn't work yet, but hopefully over the next couple of months, we're going to keep getting continuous updates to it, which makes it a lot better, a lot faster, and a lot more acclimated how we're used to on Unreal Engine 4. And then by the time the final release comes out, this thing is going to be amazing. So what I would suggest is basically going into Unreal Engine 5, playing around with it, and then you want to learn Unreal Engine 4 because everything that we know in 4 is going to be even better in 5, and so that's just going to give you a good foundation for when this is finally released. As you can see, Unreal Engine 5 is already starting to showcase some incredible power, and we're only in early access. And so over the next couple of months, Unreal Engine 5 is going to continue to be refined, and it's only going to get better and faster from here. But still, if you're ready to make that next jump into 3D design, the barrier entry is only a few clicks away. If you liked the video, please subscribe and click on that bell icon so you'll be notified for the next free tutorial. And check out my YouTube channel in the link below so you can see even more amazing techniques in Unreal Engine.